I recently played the demo of First Bezerker Khazan, and today we're gonna talk about what I thought of the demo and if I'm more interested in the game, or less so, or pretty much the same as before. Now, when I saw the trailer of First Berserker Khazan, I was quite excited. I've recently, like very recently, found my Soul's Edge with playing and finishing Dark Souls and Elden Ring last year, starting Sekiro and finishing it just a couple of weeks ago. So, seeing this trailer, I thought, cool, that's the next game to dive into. And so when the demo released, I really wanted to play it, and I'm kind of glad I did, because I found out more about the game, things that I want to talk to you about right now. Now, first of all, if you look at the core gameplay, like the simple battles against the most simplest grunts, you can see that First Berserker Khazan takes a lot of inspiration from the Soul series, including Sekiro, in terms of its combat. It's somewhat fast-paced with the attacks you can do. Parrying is quite a big thing. Dodging is still a very viable source to use as well. And overall, the way the one-on-one combat works, it feels a little bit more Souls-like, but with a little bit more speed like the Sekiro games. Basically, it's a little bit of a love letter to everything from software. Whether it works that way is a separate thing. One of the things that I realized with Kazan is that it's quite a lot easier than the From Software games. And that is a bit of a double-edged sword. When it comes to enemy attacks, they are quite slower than what you used to, which makes parrying, especially coming fresh off Sekiro, really annoying. And you think, well, if they're slower, it should be a lot easier. And yes, it should be. However, you see an enemy move for an attack like a bear. A bear is moving its claw to strike at you, and instead of it striking at you and you parry, and you're just kind of standing there waiting for the attack to land because you're way too early. Same applies to dodging. Like if there's a swipe attack, you'll easily dodge way too soon if you've been playing games like this. Which, like I said, is a double-edged sword because it makes things a little bit more annoying for kind of more experienced players, while it's also really good stepping stone for people new to the genre. So with that being said, if you do think you want to get into the Souls-like games, but you feel like they're just a little bit too hard or a little bit too aggressive, I think First Berserker Kazan might actually be the game for you to get into. However, obviously, when you make a game like this, you want to appeal to the people who love the genre. And I think unless you are super adaptable, you're really gonna struggle at first. And not for the good reasons, not for the like, oh wow, these combats are so interesting and I really want to get to learn this, more like the this is getting annoying type. And I think that is a little bit of a shame and perhaps a little bit of an oversight. It's also something I don't see changing from demo to full game. So there's that. Now also in the first part of the game, you kind of feel like something's missing with this demo. That changes after you beat the first boss. Now how that's going to be in the main game is probably going to be different, because again, this is just the demo. However, it's after the first boss when you unlock things like skill trees and find different weapon types. Once that happens, the game becomes suddenly a lot more interesting. Like, there are a lot of cool skills that you can unlock, skills that just apply to your character overall, and also skills that apply to the type of weapon you're using. In the demo, you have three types of weapons, which is the Great Sword, which is a spear, and which is a dual wield of an one-handed axe and one-handed sword. Now, the last one is the one you start off with in the demo, and is the one you have to do the first boss with. The other two you will unlock after the first boss, and you kind of get to experience them a little bit. You also have things like javelin throws, which are really cool for like long-range battles, and unlike in Souls games, they're actually quite usable, and you don't need 120 ranged attacks to kill just a simple grunt, like something that I find really annoying in some of the Souls likes. And one of the reasons I don't typically use bows, because you really just need to make your entire character into an archer to make them work. With First Berserker Khazan, it's actually just a viable extra tool. You can use a javelin to take care of just a single enemy before the other two are rushing towards you. Great stuff. Within First Berserker Kazam, just like in all these type of games, you collect a certain resource. In Kazam, it is called Lacrima, which is kind of something like a blood essence that you can collect from opponents you defeat and a couple of bodies in the world. Collecting them from bodies, unlike your typical runes or souls that you might find, you'll hear a bit of essence, like a thought of the person who died, giving you a little bit of lore, which is quite a fun little extra thing. Now, outside of Lacrima, you also have money, which is not something you used to with like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Normally, it's the souls or the runes you also purchase things with from merchants. Um, in Kazam, you also have gold coins, pretty much kind of like how in Sekiro there are two resources that you collect, which is XP for skill points and money for things to buy. In Kazami, you have your Lacrima, which is to upgrade your character. You have skill points for the skill trees, and you have money to buy things from vendors, I presume, because the demo doesn't have any vendors to buy stuff from. Or I haven't reached that far into. I've done up until the second boss, so I kind of figured if they would show something like that, it would have been before the second boss fight, but who knows. So with that said, you can see there's a lot of inspiration from various different From Software games, while also trying to do its own thing with its little own personality. And I think in that regards, it's doing its job well. However, in this demo, I also noticed a few things that are just annoying or not working properly. I already mentioned the first thing, which is the parrying. The attacks are just too slow from enemies, and I don't really want to count it as a negative. Because if this game really is designed to be for more new people within this genre, I understand this. However, after you defeat the first boss in the demo, you have an option to go with normal or easy. I went with normal, and it still felt like it's meant to be easy. And with that, just meant to be annoying for if you have any sort of experience with these type of games. Like I said, the very slow parry time. And when I say that, I do really mean the timing on them. You need to be so late with parrying and dodging that it's just getting frustrating. It kind of feels like you're being punished for paying attention. But that's not the only thing. One of the things that I realized kind of just before the first boss battle is how the damage output works. And I think there's a bit of a balancing issue. It feels a bit off. Like, especially a lot of the normal soldiers that you find, you kind of need to just hit them with combos to actually kill them. They have quite a lot of health. Same thing applies to things like Yetis that you find quite early on. And you might think, well, it's a Yeti, it's a big creature. Being in a bit of a long combat with it kind of makes sense. And I would agree. But the Yeti is about just as killable as just above your average soldier. And that's where I think the balancing is feeling a little bit off. And there's quite of a clip to illustrate that, where you see Yeti fight against three soldiers, two with a sword, one with a bow, and you can just see how little damage they do on the Yeti and how little damage the Yeti does to the soldiers. And with that, you can see that the damage output of opponents really is low. It's also indicated by the damage indicator that you'll see from different fights. You do a ton of damage, and it doesn't do much to the health bar of your opponents. Your opponents do very little damage, and it does a lot to your health bar. So it kind of feels like your health bar is around a tenth, or maybe more realistically, a sixth of the health bar of just your regular enemy. And I don't really think that's the way it's supposed to be, and it's definitely not the way it is in most of these type of games. Like normally, yeah, you can easily die from a fight with a regular enemy if you're not paying attention. That's the way it's supposed to be. You need to pay attention, you need to stay sharp, but it kind of feels like even some of the most basic enemies, you can have a very good showing against them. You can do everything right, make one tiny mistake, and get heavily punished for it. And that's just not really the way most of these games work. Like especially in the second boss fight, and it's kind of a big spoilery one, I feel. If you are staying clear of the demo and watching this because you don't want to see too much, I don't want to show this boss. So you're gonna have to take my word for it. In the boss fight, you can do a lot of things right. Like you can parry, you can block, you can dodge at the right times for quite a long time. Then you do counter attacks. You do damage, you lower the posture bar that the enemy has, you'll give a big strike, and you're about one third of his health bar. They get hit once, and you kind of already lost half your HP. You'll have three heals. It kind of means like you can get hit around 5 or 6 times depending on the attack, and you die. That's the fight over. And in a battle that's gonna take a couple of minutes, getting hit that many times is quite common. And I feel like that is the difficulty spike in this game. It's not as much as, oh, you need to learn the attack patterns to through the teeth to actually overcome them. It's more like a battle of attrition. You just need to attack and attack and attack. Make sure you step back in time for your own stamina bar, block and deflect, and then just attack again for quite a long time. And if you ever make a mistake, you're heavily punished for it. While the opponent can kind of just tank a load of damage and not really care about it. And when I say that, and even when I'm saying this, I'm like, well, yeah, that's the case with like all these From Software games as well, like Elden Ring and Dark Souls. They'll just tank hits and you'll just make sure you not get hit. However, I kind of feel like there's still a bit of a balance difference, and I'm not entirely sure how to explain it. However, when I'm facing Dark Souls boss, I'm like, okay, you hit me. I got the point. I now know what to do. And with First Bezerker Khazan, I kind of had something like, oh, fuck, you hit me. This is screwing up my entire plan. Um, and it's a minor difference, but it's enough of a difference that it's somewhat bothersome. And again, that's kind of hard to explain, especially without footage. So I'm hoping I'm gonna find something of the first boss battle, because that one wasn't too interesting lore-wise. That kind of showcases what I mean with this. Um, but yeah, I feel like there is a balancing issue when it comes to damage output from opponents, damage output from yourself, and also the timing on parries and dodges. So I hope this is something they can fix, because I think this is going to be something that's going to make people lose interest once they start playing this game. And especially early on, with the people who buy this game early, they are going to write the reviews, whether that's on the Steam store or on wherever. Those reviews are going to make or break this game, I feel, and I really hope it's going to be able to deliver upon release to make sure that people actually going to like and enjoy playing Kazan, because I do think, looking at the lore, it has a lot of interesting aspects. Looking at the way they designed the skill tree and the way you can build your character, I think there's a lot of interesting things in that. And I want this game to succeed. But I'm afraid that because of the balancing issues in the fighting itself, it's not. Now, if I think back about the hours I have spent in this demo, do I want to play more of this? And the answer is kinda. And that's probably the big issue, because when I think of playing Sekiro, there were frustrating moments in that when I was like, I want to continue. I want to master this. I want to be good at this. the same thing happened with Dark Souls and the same thing happened with Elden Ring. I didn't really want to put the controller down. I wanted to continue and I wanted to get better. And with Kazam, I kind of just thinking, this is getting just a bit too frustrated for the wrong reasons. So do I want to play this? Yes, I want to see what the lore is about. I want to see what this world is about because it looks interesting. The art style is a bit different than what you're used to from games in this genre. And yeah, I want to see more. However, I'm also afraid that in seeing more, I'm gonna be exposed to more frustrating gameplay. So one thing that I really, really, really hope is that they're gonna have the time to make some tweaks that just gonna make this feel, instead of frustratingly hard, to learning curve hard. If they can manage to do that, I think this game is gonna knock it out the park. Now, I really want to know what you think of the demo. If you've played it, do you agree with what I've said or not? I would love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to drop them down in the comments. Are you interested in playing First Berserker Kazan? Are you going to wait for a deal? Or are you probably not going to play it at all? Let me know that in the comments as well. And of course, thank you for watching.